Okay, Derbyites, welcome to our live Slugfest here on the homepage at Gold Derby. We're going to be talking about the big category today, and we want your input. So there's a chat box here. Tell us what you think is going to win. Tell us what you think is going to lose. We want to know everything. So we're here today with Charlie and Matt and Rob, and I am Marcus. And Rob, you said you wanted to kind of start this off, so go ahead.
Okay, look, here's the thing. All the experts are predicting Breaking Bad. All the editors are predicting Breaking Bad. Almost all the top 24 users are predicting Breaking Bad. Is this race over? That's what I'm wondering. Matt, what do you think?
I'm predicting Breaking Bad. Usually Breaking Bad has this all locked up. There's these slugfests, and people sort of saying, "Oh, you'd be stupid for not predicting Bad. You can't lose. The buzz is so huge." And look, I think a lot of these is White's the front runner. Is what I feel like we're in the world of the Emmys, where a Merritt Weaver can win supporting actress, where we see upsets all the time, every year. And I think when Breaking Bad hasn't been on for a year, when you've got True Detective, which has last year's Oscar winner, or this year's Oscar winner, Matthew McConaughey at the center of it on HBO, I think, and even House of Cards, which adds a whole new dynamic to the race as well, I just think to predict Breaking Bad and say it's definitely got this in the bag and to be already counting, really getting ahead of yourself.
But here's the thing, like, I'm just wondering, we're all so much in favor of it winning. Like, it's just got so much support. It can't possibly be that straightforward. I mean, Marcus, what do you think? Because this is it's almost like it's over.
It is, and there's something that I realized a couple days ago, which kind of cemented this win for me, is that, you know, Breaking Bad, it did win at the Golden Globes and at the SAG Awards, but that was before True Detective. After True Detective came on, it also started winning. It won the Critics' Choice, and it won the TCA. You can't say the same about Bryan Cranston, because Bryan Cranston won everything until True Detective came on. Once that came on, Matthew McConaughey started winning. So that's a big difference that we should know. Breaking Bad, even after True Detective, it kept winning every single precursor. Has any show ever won every single precursor and lost the Emmy? We'd have to look at our history, but I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah, I am really puzzled. And you know what really concerns me? What you're saying makes total sense, but I mean, that show was on a year ago. And I know it's still hot, but we live in a bubble.
That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
It totally matters. It was a year ago. Like, isn't that a distant memory?
It would have mattered with nominations, and that's why I think we didn't see Dean Norris or Betsy Grant get in, because it was a year out, people were nominated. But now that it's nominated, and the voters have to watch these DVDs, that's the big difference.
Yeah. Look, Charlie, pipe in here, because I am still not sure.
Well, I've always been reluctant to predict Breaking Bad because I try to view it as neutrally as possible, specifically when it comes to prediction. And I've loved Breaking Bad for so long, and I finally have become comfortable with saying, okay, this is my prediction. I actually think it's going to win, and I think it's a reasonable prediction. And I think what Marcus said just hits it right on the spot there. It would have mattered in nominations, but now it's nominated. It's on that ballot. They have to. It's not like they can say, "Oh, I forgot Breaking Bad was on." It's on your damn ballot. So there's no way they can forget that it was on.
Okay. Well, okay. So I've got Breaking Bad in first too, because I just think of all the nominated series, it's probably got the best chance, and it did do very well with its nominations. Let's be honest. But I am concerned that we are all like behind it so much that we're going to get a rude shock when it doesn't end up winning the big prize. So if that means then what is going to be the spoiler? You guys just jump in. What's the spoiler here? Is it True Detective? Because half the people in our chat box are saying that it puts them to sleep. So I'm wondering if that's the spoiler.
Physical Comedian has my favorite line so far, saying True Detective cures my insomnia. So that'll be helpful, useful advice, so I stop popping pills. But I want to say that the problem, what you're saying though, about what's the spoiler, there's no one spoiler. There are several spoilers
Right.
that I think really play into this. And while most people would say True Detective is the potential spoiler, and it will definitely get some of those high votes there. There is ample evidence we have seen from the across the spectrum support with some of these shows. Downton Abbey, there are still some big fans of that in the Academy. House of Cards definitely improved since it improved upon last year. And definitely there will be some Game of Thrones fans. There's no one single alternative to go to. So I think that definitely plays in Breaking Bad's favor.
That's a great point. Would you guys agree that like Mad Men is the only one that can't win? I mean, I have it 6th place. This is a 4-time Emmy winner for Best Drama Series, but it's 7 episodes that aired like in April or May. They didn't do it for me. They didn't do it for a lot of people. I think some people weren't even predicting Mad Men to get nominated. What do you guys think of the Mad Men thing? Is it definitely in 6th place here, Matt?
I think it's going to be very hard for Mad Men, for Downton Abbey, or for Game of Thrones to win this award. Like, I don't think it's a 5-horse race or even a 4-horse race for spoilers. Game of Thrones a bit above those two, so I think it's Downton and Mad Men fighting it out for that bottom slot in a very tough field. And yeah, I don't know how a 4-time winner's gonna come back with. And Mad Men had a bit less buzz this season. Maybe for their final season, their final 7 episodes, they'll get more and come on strong, and next year stage a coup. So I don't think the curtain's necessarily fallen on Mad Men at the Emmys, but I think this year, with all the buzz behind Breaking Bad, with all the buzz behind True Detective, all the buzz behind House of Cards, and buzz behind Game of Thrones, it's just, for a show that's already been rewarded a lot, and I think with Emmys it is hard when you go in that winner's circle, you fall out of that winner's circle to come back into it. The West Wing, once it won its score, it was never able to come back and win again for its last 3 years. Hill Street Blues, once it won its score, it was never able to come back for its last 3 years. So I think, Mad Men, I'm not high on it. But to be honest, I think I'm not high on Downton or even Game of Thrones, which had a great season.
I kind of agree with
go ahead, mate.
Montana 82 says, I think Game of Thrones is the spoiler. I agree 100% with that. It has,
really?
It has 19 nominations, more than any other show. It's going to clean up. Tomorrow night, we should mention, we're doing this live, so tomorrow night is the Creative Arts. Game of Thrones is probably going to clean up tomorrow.
Unless Boardwalk Empire does.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, Matt, you're totally on something, and I wanted to just remind everybody, because we'll talk about this tomorrow for sure, but remember when those couple of first 2 years when Boardwalk Empire was on, and it just won everything, and then some people are even saying, oh, maybe Boardwalk Empire might have a shot now that it's won all these creative arts. It really, I think it has no bearing on drama series, the actual big prize on Emmy night, so I think you're totally right there. But I've got to say, I think that you were mentioning before that you're insane if you think Breaking Bad is the all-out leader here because of all the arguments you raise. I think you're really insane if you don't think Game of Thrones is the spoiler. I agree. I think it totally is the spoiler. Not because of all of its creative arts nominations. I just think that it's just so hot right now. And I know they have a bias against fantasy and sci-fi and whatever, but maybe I'm in the minority, but I thought it was a really strong season. And I think that it's totally the spoiler.
It was my favorite season of all 4 seasons. And maybe that's because I'm finally understanding who these characters are and what their relationships are. It's a lot to take in. And I feel for these poor Emmy voters, these 60, 70-year-old guys that are like, what is this Game of Thrones? Kevin Baker says Game of Thrones will never win because the Academy will never understand what the heck is happening.
I mean, that's a fair comment. But going back to Mad Men for a second, I really think Mad Men was lucky to be nominated. Okay, so I'm just going to trot out my usual bitching about The Good Wife. It should have been there instead of Mad Men. 7 episodes. They were good, but they weren't off the charts brilliant. And
I don't even think they were good.
Okay, that's fair enough.
You think Downton Abbey should be there should still be in there, but Mad Men should be out?
That's a good point, Charlie. You reminded me. I don't think so. I thought Downton was unwatchable. That's just me. So I don't know what it's doing.
And I see you as someone who actually likes Downton Abbey, but
Yeah.
those British boys are just too much for me.
So we all agree that we're happy Homeland is not in this.
Thank God.
Yeah. And that's coming from a real fan of the show when it first came out. I thought it was brilliant. I really did. But that third season was so bad. Like, that was worse than something that you would see on like the USA Network. It was just terrible. And it kind of made up for it towards the end. But that Venezuela thing, I just really wanted to rip my eyes out. It was horrifying to have to watch that. So I'm glad it's not there.
Yeah, and Chris Beecham said, Rob, you're actually predicting The Good Wife to win drama series, right?
yeah, he did say that, and I wrote a few expletives in response to that. But yeah, it should win. There should be a writing, for God's sake. Like, really, to not have that fifth season memorialized as one of the best of the year is just ridiculous. So thanks, Emmy voters. Thanks very much. What else? Are we done? Is that it? Is this Breaking Bad and we're done? Why don't we just call it off?
I just don't see the Game of Thrones as the spoiler argument. And Game of Thrones, of all these shows, is my second favorite show. Like, if Breaking Bad wasn't nominated, I'd be going for Game of Thrones. I think they had a great year. I think it's been an incredible show and could be one of the great drama series of all time if they stay consistent for their last seasons, however many there will be. But I feel like Game of Thrones isn't a show that can never win Best Drama Series, but it's got a lot of hurdles to clear that other shows don't have. Because it is an inaccessible show. It's not a show you can just pick up from Season 4, Episode 5, and get it. And I feel like for a Game of Thrones to win, it will need to have the most buzz of any show. And I don't see it having more than Breaking Bad. I think a premium HBO drama starring movie stars might not need to have as much buzz as Breaking Bad to beat Breaking Bad, because it just might fit with what the Academy wants to reward. I think a House of Cards, which sort of in some ways can be a historic choice for the Academy, a sort of we're ahead of the curve and we're embracing the future of television with Netflix, and it stars Kevin Spacey and it's a white-collar show with politicians and things. I can see that beating Breaking Bad too. I just can't see this really buzzed series of Breaking Bad getting overcome by Game of Thrones, even if in some ways it's the second best show or got the most nominations. I just think the other shows have arguments that can work better against Breaking Bad than Game of Thrones, which I think is going to be low on a few ballots.
Yeah, I think, Matt, that really does persuade me a bit because, I mean, you wrote those really awesome articles throughout Game of Thrones' fourth season every week, the highs and lows and who was up and who was down. And so really no one really follows this show as close as you do. And if you're saying that, you don't think it has really a shot as the spoiler, then, that should be taken, we should be taking heed on that. But, hear me out on True Detective, because I know that it makes people fall asleep and all that stuff. But, when it was airing during Oscar season, it was really hot, and people thought it was just the second coming. It was wonderful, and it was all about the reconnaissance, and how good is this show? It's so original, it's so different. And I think at that point in time, I thought this show is going to win an Emmy for something. Then they put it, in my opinion, in the wrong category, and I think that hurts it. And then there was this whole lawsuit happening in the background that may also affect its chances. So. But even though it has those two things going against it, because I think a lot of Emmy voters will resent it being in the drama series category, I still think of all the 6 shows, that's the one that I think has the most snob appeal and cachet. What do you think of that argument?
Yeah, that's a great point. And somebody in the chat box was wondering about that lawsuit. Irish movie lover forever. Do you think the True Detective lawsuit could affect it winning? And the lawsuit is the plagiarism, right? Someone's accusing the writer, the creator of
Nick Pizzolatto, yeah.
I don't think it could hurt in drama series, but I think it could hurt in writing. I mean, if you're a writer and there's a big lawsuit about plagiarism and you're on the ballot, not the ballot, but you're on that voting panel, you're not going to give it to something that quite possibly was plagiarized. I mean, that's like the big no-no if you're a writer.
When did the lawsuit come up? When did that come up? Because I know voting ended today, correct?
Yeah, it was like right during voting. It started last week.
It might be. I don't know. I don't know how Emmy voters usually do. Whether there's like, because I know like during the Oscars there's a huge surge and like people who get their ballots in at the last minute. But if you know if like the writing branch specifically, if they've gotten all of that, if they've already gotten their ballots in, it wouldn't make a difference.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. You know, just thinking of writing and directing, Marcus, you raise a good point there. What do we think are going to take those two home? Because that may have some bearing on, you know, what ends up winning the final prize. There's many years where you see like NYPD Blue win and then Picket Fences wins at the end of the night, or you see that happen quite a bit. The Practice did it as well when it didn't win anything else. So it doesn't mean that you have to win writing and directing to get the drama series prize, but at the moment I've got the True Detective Who Goes There episode winning directing. That just seems really obvious to me, and I have the Breaking Bad finale winning writing. What are you guys predicting for those two?
I have I also have True Detective for directing, and I have I don't remember what I have in second or third. I'm gonna have to check that. But in writing, I have Ozymandias winning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm the same. I have Who Goes There winning directing. And for everyone that doesn't know, that's the episode that ends with that tracking shot, like a 7 minute tracking shot. It's unbelievable. That was the moment when I realized, okay, True Detective, it's not just this stupid, boring mystery show. It actually has something to it that's special. And I think that's kind of a slam dunk for directing. Although if they feel bad about never giving Vince Gilligan anything, they could very easily give him the directing Emmy for Breaking Bad for the finale. And then for writing, I have Ozymandias. I just think it was the best episode of TV of the year, maybe of all time, and it's hard not to think that it won't win. So I have it predicted there. Matt, what are yours?
Well, I've got predicted the True Detective for directing and Ozymandias for writing as well. But thinking about it now, I'm thinking that Breaking Bad finale is going to be hard not to vote for in some ways. Like in both cases, even when it's competing against itself, because the way that show wrapped things up was so well praised and so well buzzed. After watching it, and I think even Ozymandias and Felina competing against each other in writing, I'm just wondering if like they're gonna like just vote for the final instead, because that's the easier vote in some ways. It's sort of like, oh, the final, that's the way of acknowledging this as a series. But it's a really tough one. One word I would say is don't rule out Boardwalk Empire in directing. That
Absolutely.
show has won 2 out of 3 years. Boardwalk Empire's won that. So that's my third prediction there. Which I think it would be easy just to put that at the bottom of your list because it's not nominated for drama series. But the directors love Boardwalk Empire. And I think something in True Detective's favour for directing is often shows in their first year win directing. Like
Usually it's pilots, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is usually.
I think that episode obviously was submitted and voted for just because of that tracking shot. That really was so hyped throughout the season. But Matt is totally onto Boardwalk Empire. I always make the point of saying it. I agree with you completely because Martin Scorsese won in the first year, so maybe that doesn't count. But then in the second year, I think it was Tim Van Patten, and he won. It was a big surprise. And then last year, I was predicting Boardwalk Empire to do it again, and it didn't win because David Fincher won. This year, we don't really have a big movie star director, I think, in this category, so it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Boardwalk Empire take home a third Emmy in the directing category. So that's something that we should watch out for.
Yeah, I currently have it in 6th. I probably need to move that up. I'll probably move it up to 4th or 3rd. I think the Game of Thrones episode, that's The Watchers on the Wall, that's nominated for directing. That's the one with the big battle at the wall, right? Whatever they called the wall thing. I think it's the wall. I sometimes just don't get it. I'm sorry, and my roommates will kill me for that. But
Wow.
That was the bit that hit a huge battle, that went throughout the entire episode. That went through the entire episode, and that could also be a very big factor in there. I think it's a player.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
good
totally
feel
agree.
directing.
It's very good, very
Like,
strong.
it's like, yeah, that Game of Thrones. And the good thing with that Game of Thrones episode, it is more of a self-contained episode. You don't have all these
Yeah.
different people you're trying to understand what their relationship is with who. It's all one story, one battle. If you're not a fan of the show, you're going to be pretty impressed with the scope and spectacle, and not sort of going, oh, now who's that again? Who's what? Yeah.
There's no incest. It's the heartwarming part of Game of Thrones.
That helps.
Yeah.
There's no incest rule. It's a big one. It's a big factor. But I'm actually considering putting that episode in my #1 slot just because it's going to be like that Merritt Weaver surprise. We're going to see something on that night. And remember 2 years or 3 years ago when Steve Schill won directing for Dexter? That was pretty surprising. It wasn't really one of the hottest shows, although Dexter was nominated in drama series. And I'm thinking there's got to be something where it's not just the obvious choice, and maybe it's Watchers on the Wall, because after watching that episode, I was really, really impressed with the way it was directed. And it was the highlight episode of the season. Game of Thrones is really hot right now. We've said all the arguments as to why Game of Thrones is so big. It's probably going to win a few tomorrow, we think. And if anything should win, it should be the directing for that episode. So maybe I'm thinking about taking out True Detective, but it just seems too obvious to me.
I mean, sometimes... Oh, no, go on. It's okay.
No. Well, maybe True Detective is not as big as we think it is. Maybe it's just going to be an also-ran.
I mean, and sometimes, I mean, that's one of the ones. I'll tell you one that was even further out of left field. I remember was the year before the Dexter win, 2009. The finale of ER won, and it had no other nominations.
Yeah.
So out of nowhere, that just
point.
Out of completely nowhere. So I mean, at this point, you might as well put Boardwalk Empire in your first slot, because this category especially has quite a reputation of anything goes.
Well, that convinces me that Felina could win then, because if the ER finale won, it's kind of like their way of hugging the show and saying goodbye. We want to give you a trophy on your way out. But then again, Breaking Bad's going to get a lot of trophies. I think they could win. They could win actor. They could win supporting actor, writing, director. They could win a ton on Emmy night. And then
calm down, Marcus.
For creative artists, they could win. I'm saying they could.
Keep your pants on. No, totally. Let's just remind us all that if Marcus is really onto something, you need to be careful, because the Dixon curse is still alive and well, and it worries me that you're so into it. I just think I might have to make some changes.
We should say what the curse is.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us
the creative arts last year, I went like 0 for 7. I think we were predicting 7 in our prediction center. 0 for 7. So the Emmys were the following week, and I said I have to rethink some of my strategies here. And so I predicted Homeland to win Best Drama, hoping that my prediction curse would cause Homeland to lose. And I ended up being correct. So every Breaking Bad fan out there, you are very welcome.
As did I, so I back you up on that.
Okay, so we just, whatever Marcus is picking, you need to pay attention. But that being said,
Yeah, I just think in some ways with these sort of with Breaking Bad, like we can look at all these Emmy rules and history and precedent and stuff like that, but every now and then there's a year that comes along that defies that. Breaking Bad is in every single race at the Emmys, and I don't just mean for the primetime night, and I don't just mean they're in them, they're nominated. They could win all of them. Like, we could see a Breaking Bad sweep. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to lose 1 or 2 places. Sorry, they're not in lead actress. They're not in lead actress. But all the other ones, they could win supporting actor. They could win writing, directing. They could win drama series. They could win drama actor. And we'll really find out on Emmy night just how much voters loved that show and how big an impact that final season, which got acclaim like we really haven't seen for a final season of TV before. I know The Sopranos had a lot of buzz, but it was sort of polarizing how it ended. Some people loved it, some people hated it. And same with Lost. People loved that final season, but some people hated the final season. So it's going to be so interesting to see, will Breaking Bad just win everything? And if they don't, what are they going to lose? Or do they lose everything? Is it a True Detective night? Like,
Yeah, that's the big question mark. I think HBO. I really don't know what they were thinking putting True Detective in Best Drama because it would have won miniseries. It would have won for Matthew McConaughey. And what's the woman's name? Michelle Monaghan. She probably would have been nominated there. Whereas the switch to drama, the crowd for supporting actress was too full, so she got snubbed. Why did they do this? Are they doing this because it's more cachet to win drama? Is that why? Because now they're going to lose everything.
I think so. I think
They
you're
knew they
totally
were going
right.
to lose to Fargo.
Maybe.
Nah,
I think they would have probably beaten Fargo. Like,
Yeah, I think
if there's
No, I
anything
don't
that
think so. I don't
I
think so.
don't. I think True Detective is
I know.
more. True Detective belongs in the miniseries category even more so than Fargo. Like it was just so self-contained. It was like, so it was at 7 episodes. Like it really just
It was
was
8.
such a, okay, so 8 episodes. It really was such a miniseries. I just can't believe that it got into the drama series category. It doesn't belong there. And I think that I personally believe that it will be penalised for that. Although, even though when it was airing, it was just so beloved, and people were just going mental for it. It was like as if there was never anything as good as that ever on TV, even though I thought it was extremely derivative, and it wasn't really, it was, sorry, that's my Mad Men ringtone, and it wasn't really as fantastic as people were making out. I just thought, oh yeah, Emmy voters will lap it up, but maybe it will be punished for being in that category. Maybe.
I like the move on one level. I won't if it wins because I'd be upset Breaking Bad didn't win. But like I like the move. It's like a ballsy move. It's like they've got into the major leagues. Like they're not just content with winning miniseries.
Yeah.
They're going. We're gonna take on Breaking Bad. We're gonna take on Game of Thrones. We're gonna take on House of Cards. Like we can go toe to toe with the big guys. And I like that. It's made for like a better showdown at the Emmys, I think.
Was this before or after was the announcement that True Detective was going to compete in drama series before or after the announcement that miniseries and movie would be split again this year?
I'm not sure.
I think it was before.
Okay, well then they thought that they would have all these nominees, all the people from True Detective going up against Normal Heart, which is definitely primed to win several Emmys as well.
Right. Crazy.
So that always helps.
Yeah.
Kevin
But
Baker
it's just-
says we're all underestimating True Detective. There are lots of fans out there.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Like the
It's
X-Files,
really hard
the
to say.
fans are out there.
The fans are out there.
The industry
Yeah.
likes it. Like,
I do.
wasn't there like a point that this show, True Detective, like it helped Matthew McConaughey win his Oscar because that was like happening at the same time? Like, that's incredible that we in 2014 that TV work is helping people win Oscars. Like, and I think like there's gonna be like it's always if McConaughey loses the Emmy, it's like, oh well, winning an Oscar, having like an acclaimed film performance can't really help you get more respect in TV against people like Bryan Cranston. But boy, it can acclaimed TV work can sure help you win an Oscar. Like it'll be really interesting, sort of where we've come, because like decades ago, TV was not very well viewed by the film industry.
Yeah, I know.
And before we sign off here, I remember when The Sopranos, their final year at the Emmys, didn't they bring out the entire cast, like from guest stars all the way up to Tony Soprano, and they trotted them out on stage?
They did an interesting thing. They did a whole segment for The Sopranos. The first thing they did was they had I guess the people who were in the cast of Jersey Boys sing a medley of Frankie Valli songs while they aired a montage of Sopranos clips, which did not go together at all. It was so bad. It was just so bad. Well, they have they have them singing "Sherry Baby" while they're playing the clip of AJ trying to drown himself in the pool, which is just awful, just awful.
It didn't work.
I like the clips. It just didn't go together with the song. However, and then they had the whole cast come out for one big final curtain call, which I actually really liked.
Right. I wonder if they're going to do anything like that for Breaking Bad this year, because really, this is the first time a big cultural show has ended on such a high since The Sopranos. Some people think Friday Night Lights ended really well, but it wasn't, let's face it, it wasn't the same level as The Sopranos or Breaking Bad. So I wonder if there's going to be some special goodbye at the Emmys for this show, whether it wins or not.
I don't know. Do you really think Breaking Bad is on the same level as The Sopranos? I never really got that impression. I thought
Why are
The
you
Sopranos
asking
was
me
more of-
that? You know the answer to that.
Okay, so not directed at Marcus because the answer is yes, yes, yes. But really, I tell you what, I don't think it is. I think The Sopranos was more of a cultural phenomenon than Breaking Bad ever will be or ever was, personally.
The thing about The Sopranos is that while I think Breaking Bad had better consistency, the Sopranos was the game changer in terms of cable, in terms of really elevating cable and television as a whole up to a whole nother level. So that's why I think, and plus when they were going to do that tribute to the Sopranos, they were hyping it, they were publicizing it before the Emmys. I think if they were going to do something like that for Breaking Bad, we would have heard about it.
Yeah, I think Sopranos has definitely had a bigger impact on the television landscape than Breaking Bad. Its legacy, what it's done, is definitely bigger than what Breaking Bad's been able to do. I think Breaking Bad has ended better than The Sopranos ended. I think the final season of Breaking Bad was better, and personally, as a piece of art, I preferred Breaking Bad, but Sopranos is great too. So like. Yeah, that's more a personal preference thing than what I think is bigger show.
Yeah, I always like to just before we sign off, I always think the way that I judge art or TV or movies is, will I watch this over and over again and still take in as much as I did the first time? And I can't say that about Breaking Bad, as good as it is. But The Sopranos, I've watched those seasons over and over and over again, including the final season and the finale. I just think that was the greatest thing ever on TV. But I just want to say something that Irish Movie Lover Forever says in our chat room, and I think this is totally true and a good way to perhaps maybe end this chat, that he would much rather win an Emmy than win an Oscar, and because of TV and how good it is these days, and I totally agree. Winning an Emmy, that is such an achievement. So there you go.
All right, yeah, so now we're going to... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, talking about these great shows, I've been rewatching Mad Men this year, and boy, that show holds up so well, those early seasons of Mad Men. That really is another one of the great shows, and I can go back and watch it, and it's just so, so good. And, I think Irish Movie Lover also says can't wait for the Mad Men Love Fest next year, and boy, I'd love Mad Men to have a great send-off next year at the Emmys.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're going to come back right away for our comedy series, Live Slugfest. But just to close this one out, there's a lot of categories this year at the Emmys that people are losing sleep over. Drama series is not one of them. Every single editor, every single expert, 19 of the 24 users, they're all predicting Breaking Bad to win. So we will end on that note. We'll be right back.
If I'm losing sleep, according to one of the guys in the forums or in the chat box, I can just watch True Detective and then I will fall asleep.
But ironically, if True Detective wins the Emmy, it will wake us all up.
Oh,
yeah,
we'll be very much awake.
Very true.
We will be wide awake.